need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
This is a Fox News alert. They're all finally out of that cave in Thailand. I'm Dave Anthony. All 12 boys have now been rescued. The final 4 brought out this morning along with their soccer coach. We don't know their conditions yet. They'll be taken to the same hospital where the 8 rescued the past 2 days are still under observation. Now, President Trump is in the air en route to Europe, where he'll talk to our NATO allies, still complaining they don't spend enough on the defense of their own countries.
We pay far too much, and they pay far too little, but we will work it out.
That was the president right before leaving, also boasting about his Supreme Court pick.
Brett Kavanaugh's gotten rave reviews.
Right, Kavanaugh was his choice as the nominee to replace Anthony Kennedy on the court.
My judicial philosophy is straightforward. A judge must be independent and must interpret the law, not make the law.
Now, there are Democrats, though, who are calling him extremist, vowing to continue to fight this pick all the way before the process. The Republicans who support him want him on the court by October. President Trump has lost a round in court, a federal judge not allowing the Trump administration to detain illegal immigrant families together. This as they're under court order to put some families back together. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has this live.
Dave, the deadline affects about 100 kids under the age of 5, but only about half that number will actually join their parents today, according to government lawyers. More than 2,000 kids were separated from their parents. They were sent to shelters spanning the country, while those parents, many of whom were seeking asylum, were charged for illegal entry. The parents will be free while their cases go through the court system. They may have to wear ankle monitors. The deadline to reunite those kids older than 5 is July 26th. Dave.
And President Trump a moment ago said the way to solve all this is to have people not come to the country illegally. Fox News, fair and balanced.
It's the Ford Summer Sales Event. And now, while selection is best, it's the best time to buy. With amazing offers across a full lineup of Ford vehicles, now is the time to make summer go right with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Stop by a local Ford store or shop online at buyfordnow.com, because there is no better time than right now to get behind the wheel of a new Ford during the Ford Summer Sales Event. The Ford Summer Sales Event is here. Right now, get 0% APR financing for 72 months plus $1,000 Ford credit bonus cash on a great lineup of Ford SUVs. Best-selling claim based on 2017 calendar year sales. Not all buyers qualify for Ford credit financing. 72 months at $1,389 per month for $1,000 finance regardless of down payment. Not available on Expedition. For all offers, take new retail delivery from authorized Ford dealer stock by 7/31/18. See dealer or go to buyfordnow.com for qualifications and details.
Rescue divers are back in that Thailand cave hoping to bring out the remaining kids and their soccer coach trapped inside for over 2 weeks. 8 of the kids have been rescued since Sunday. President Trump has picked a favorite of the Republican legal establishment, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, for the Supreme Court. With Kavanaugh, Trump is also setting the stage for a fierce fight with Democrats. You've seen cash only at a bunch of stores, but card only. There's a proposed New Jersey law that would fine any retailers who prohibit you from paying with paper money.
I think it's a matter of time. We actually had last year one of the major credit card companies giving incentives for retail establishments that would go cashless.
Assemblyman Paul Moriarty says there are plenty of people who don't have access to credit, and they shouldn't be marginalized. The 2 women found dead in a South Jersey condo, mother and daughter, 87-year-old Elaine Rosen, 67-year-old daughter Michelle Gordon. They were found Sunday morning in Ventnor. They died from blunt force trauma, but police don't have any suspects. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
A moderate risk for dangerous rip currents posted along the entire Jersey Shore today. Ocean wave heights up to about 3 to 4 feet. Lots of sunshine overhead today with some clouds building in this afternoon. It is going to be very warm, dare I say hot. Highs in the lower 90s for most, 80s along the coast. A few showers tonight, mainly in North Jersey. Lows fall to around 70. Partly sunny tomorrow, slight chance for an evening shower. Highs lower to mid-80s, and we'll see more lower to mid-80s for Thursday and Friday with a nice mix of sun and clouds for both days, too. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, It's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Thank you very much. The following program is sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member, SIPC. Chuck Malamut, my good man, I know that you don't live day by day, but yesterday was a good day.
Yesterday was an exceptional day.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a day like that in over a month. And we've always talked about, for the last 6 months or so, the market really needs to trade on fundamentals, and it was evidenced today in the fact that Pepsi was the first to report Q2, and they beat pretty handsomely, and as a result of that, the futures today are up, Dow, S&P, and the NASDAQ, all three. So Friday is a really big day for the markets because that's when the financials begin to report. And the financials, had a really rough road of it over the last 6-8 weeks, and particularly in the last two, as parts of the market were rallying and financials were not. So now what we're seeing is sort of rotation, financials, energy, and there's some movement out of technology. So there's a whole discussion: are we in the sixth inning? Are we in the ninth inning? Are we in an extra inning ball game? We think there's still a ways to go in the equity markets, but again, it's just a matter of being selective. You just can't. There's a place for active and a place for passive investing, and I think right now what you need to do is to be in both spots, because when you think about it, look at what's happened this year so far. It's kind of we're on this on this crazy roller coaster. The S&P index peaked at 2875 back in January, and then ended up in the blow off of the market that we had. It then moved down to like 2532 at the bottom of in February at the market correction. So we've had not only domestic volatility, but we've had it more so outside of the U.S. And if you take a look at the Chinese market, I'm not saying it's tariff driven per se, but you've had, that market's been a really, really tough spot. They are clearly in a bear market at this point in time. But in spite of it all, the U.S. seems to be doing relatively well. And, so I think the first question that always investors, continually ask themselves, well, what do we do now? Do we bail out of our equities? Do we buy more equities? Do we replace our equities? Do we trade our equities? And I think, Harry, at the end of the day, while we've had this, I call it sort of the big churn, not where it's like you're on a boat and you look behind you have that great churn as you're running through the bay or the ocean. I think the market's kind of doing the same thing to a certain extent, where you've had this volatility. We think the fundamentals are intact and earnings are going to be intact, where the bull market's going to continue, at least for the time being. But again, remembering that volatility with a capital V, where the VIX is referred to, is here to stay. That's not going away at any future point in time.
Are you going to get into the yield spread?
Well, yeah. If you take a look at what is happening with the 10-year, there's been so much discussion. And it happened, it happened in the last 4 to 6 weeks in particular. And I don't know if you recall or Kirk recalls, but there was a time in there where the 10-year was getting very, very close and actually pierced through 3%.
Yep, I do remember.
And it was only there for a matter of a few days, and then all of a sudden, well, we're going to go to 3.25. We're going to 3.5. It's the end of the equity bull market, and now as we look at the 10-year today, we're at about 2.86. We've traded in that pretty tight range, 2.82 to 2.92 in the last 3 to 4 weeks. But what's happened over the last 6 months, particularly the 2-year note, has increased by about 48 basis points. The 10-year moved up only 24, and as a result of that, all the strategists are out there trying to figure out like who's right. Is it the bond market? Is it the stock market? But what's happening here? The curve, continues to flatten out. There has been a lot of discussion about the curve being inverted, because at that point in time, then all of a sudden, the big R word, where the big capital R is out there, and we don't think there's any real signs of that at this point in time. There's just, the thing that happens in the bond market oftentimes leads the Fed into making decisions, although the Fed says that we rely exclusively on economic reports. But I think the Fed actually thinks about and looks at the way the bond market trades, and sometimes takes their cue from what is happening. But the question is the Fed going to go how many more times this year? Is it going to be 2 times? Is it going to be 3 times? I mean, you think about, I think we've had 7 rate hikes now. And, savers, that depend on earning or depend on savings from bank accounts or savings accounts, and short-term money market funds are now being rewarded for having their money invested, versus, if you remember, several years ago, the bank was going to hold your money, and not only are we going to hold your money, we're not going to pay you interest, but we're going to charge you to hold you. Now, that is, I don't know if it's at some point in time, not too long ago, it was happening in Germany. I'm not quite certain if that's still the case now, but the fact is, if you can, think about a quality money market fund yielding at this point in time like 1.7, 1.8%, I mean, there's something to be said for that, and versus where we were 0.1, not too long ago. So there is room in the portfolio to have some short-term money, either for a need or potentially an opportunity.
Let me bring in an item that's not on our schedule for this morning, and I'll bring it in the 2-minute drill that we have before the first break. The Atlanta Fed, to me, Chuck, seems to be all over the place. They were at possibly 5.4% GDP for the second quarter. Now they've revised downward to 3.8%. They just seem like they're all over the place. To me, that's not hitting a mark there. That's a wild range that they're.
Yeah, I don't quite agree with that. I mean, if you need, you need to be, better at your game, so to speak. And then granted,
I see. What I don't like about it is, in other words, if it came in at 3.8, this is bad news, because they said initially it was going to be 5.4. Well, we haven't had 3.8 since when?
Since forever.
Right.
They
could make good news look bad.
Yeah, I think that it's easy for us to sit here and criticize, but I think they need to get their act together.
Right. And it's easy to criticize when someone says last week 5.4 and this week they're saying 3.8.
I mean, you need to be a little more consistent in your message, because that ultimately, you think about the market does trade on that information. I can't imagine if we were an economy at 5.4%, it'd be. I mean, the streets would be lined with gold. It'd be just the most amazing thing.
Well, especially when they said that there was a new norm and it could never happen again. The experts.
My two proponents are here about the new norm, so
experts.
I think we'll go to break on that one.
Good call. 14 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. When we come back, we're going to talk about unemployment, because the numbers came out better than forecasted. But again, both lazy and dishonest reporting tried to make good news bad news, because it ticked up from 3.8% unemployment rate to 4% unemployment rate. But that's because more people actually believe they can get a job. We'll get Chuck's take on that when we come back, and much more.
Dad, what are you doing?
Cramming for college.
I'm the one going to college.
Yeah, but we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it all.
Discover Student Loans.
Discover does student loans?
Yeah, they're one of the top student loan lenders in the country. It takes 15 minutes or less to apply, and there are no fees for the life of the loan. Best of all, I can earn cash rewards if I get good grades.
Really?
Yeah, we still have time to apply and get a great rate.
So I can just chill. College kids still say that, right?
No one says that, Dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Visit discoverstudentloans.com to apply today. Limitations apply. When you need bug bite relief.
Ow! Ow! What? Ow! Yikes!
Stepped in an ant bed relief.
What a pretty plant. Wait, is that...
Poison ivy relief. You need the power of Gold Bond Relief. Gold Bond Rapid Relief Cream has twice the medicines of hydrocortisone formulas to fight itch and relieve minor pain. Plus, vitamin E and aloe to help soothe skin fast. Gold Bond Relief starts now. Use as directed.
Hello, beautiful. I'm Amy Errett, founder of Madison Reed, a hair color company I named after my daughter. One of the things I value most in life is time. Time to spend with my daughter, time to spend with family, and the time I put into my company that's reinventing the way women color their hair. The busiest, most successful women I know use Madison Reed, the amazing hair color hack. In under an hour and for less than $25, Madison Reed delivers gorgeous, shiny, multi-dimensional, healthy-looking hair with an ammonia-free formula. You'll look like you just came from a salon, but the reality is you have more me time to do what you love. Things get busy. Let us take care of you and your hair. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code HELLO. That's code HELLO. Try it. Love it. That's the beauty of Madison Reed.
Hi, remember this is Tony Landa with Hurley in the morning. Keep listening.
Hurley in the morning. With Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, available for all of your financial planning needs. That's college building, retirement planning, vacation planning, whatever the case may be. Sit down and Chuck will explain to you his perfected concept of total asset management with the all-important asset allocation. Is that important right now, Chuck, halfway through the year to be taking a look at what you've been doing?
Well, we think it's always important, but now with this shift that we kind of talked about before the break, where funds are moving out of certain sectors, being as I mentioned, technology, and moving into energy, moving into financials. Yeah, it's really important, and I think the one thing that we take great pride in and what we do, it's like going to the doctor's office and the doctor, well, in most cases, I should say, I can't say in all cases, are not going to pull out the script pad and just start writing prescriptions for you. They're going to do a complete analysis and then make a determination as to what's wrong with you or what needs to be corrected. Now, same thing, works with us. It's without the plan. It's like trying to drive from here to California. I'm sure you can probably get there without a GPS. But you need to make a plan, and time goes by very, very quickly. I mean, you've been doing the show for 27 years. I mean, I can remember, when you first started. I mean, my wife Pam and I had this discussion last night. Been at this for going on 33 years, and it just seems like it was yesterday. And without the plan. You can put your money to work, and that's fine, but you really need to have a reason why. So we not only from a retirement perspective, but also for college planning, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a friend, because I just saw again the most amazing stat just the other day. College costs are going to increase this coming fall, another 4 to 6%, but we're keeping our costs in line. It was from a fairly well-known local out-of-state school within driving distance from here in a very, very small state. I guess I don't have to – I think you can kind of figure out where I'm going with this. But I read the email and I I basically fell out of my chair. I said, "This is this is complete insanity." But I don't want to say the system's rigged. But as we talked about before, you can't get an education in 4 years. You need 5 or 6 to be quote qualified. But you look around, there's just I just shake my head and say whether it's a New Jersey state school or it's an out-of-state school, they all beat to the same drummer. We're going to increase our costs every year because.
I think the game is rigged. I'll say it. I think it is rigged.
Look, I think there's a lot to be said if someone that is quote properly educated. I think you can go far in the world, but I think a lot of it has to do with working hard, creating, your own breaks, making certain that you mentor under the right person. I mean, we've all had mentors in our lives, and those mentors, help, guide us, along the path. Someone has been, doing when we started, someone was in the business for 20, 30 years. I mean, that is invaluable. And sometimes you just get out there and throw yourself out there. Look, you're going to stumble. You're going to make mistakes. And one thing that we always tell these college kids, your first job's not your last job. But I don't know how I got on that rant. But I guess the point is that it's just I agree with you. The system is rigged where you can just increase your costs because you're allowed to do so, because you can get away with it. So to
exactly.
Speak.
And it was very altruistic. It was a beautiful thing. People could get the money. You basically had to prove nothing other than you pay your bills on time. Credit score didn't matter. Just as everything was paid, you could have the worst scars on your credit file, but if everything is current at this moment, you get whatever you request, and that meant that there was no concern of what the annual cost would be because the money was there to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. And now now the big day of reckoning comes, and you look at your credit score and you're saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm just saddled with this incredible debt."
People that won't be able to get a home because
you didn't know any,
because
you didn't not
right.
that you didn't know any better, but you weren't. It gets down to being properly educated, and I think that's one of the things we've talked about. And if maybe I'm getting my soapbox a little bit here, but I think even in elementary school and middle school and high school and even in college, I mean there should be some kind of requirements where when you leave those institutions, that you have a solid footing and you clearly understand the concept of earning and spending and saving and budgeting. And we just do not. We do a really, really, I think, poor job of that. Everywhere in this country, and then you turn around and people are just saddled with this debt that's just through the roof that they're never ever going to be able to overcome.
It's true. And then they go to try to get a mortgage. They'll go to Jim Malamut and they'll say, "Oh, you got a great credit score, but
your debt, exactly.
You're finished."
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so let's talk about unemployment here for a second, because you did mention the unemployment rate did tick up to 4%.
Mm-hmm. But for a good reason.
And it's for a very good reason, because now more people are entering the workforce. I mean, more people are now getting off the bench, so to speak, and they are looking for work. So the market had actually no reaction. It was a positive day. When you say, "Oh my goodness, you're going from 3.8 to 4%," and it's like you would say, "Oh my goodness, this is just awful." But at the end of the day, it's actually a good thing. And and speaking of unemployment, let me throw a question out there. I mean, Kirk, you're still with us, and Harry, you guys are both bright guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for the best and the worst states, as far as unemployment is concerned, the highest unemployment rate, as measured this past May, was at 7.2%, and the state that had the lowest unemployment rate was at 2%.
I'm going to take a guess and say that Texas has the lowest unemployment at 2%.
That's not correct.
Darn. I would say Vermont?
Kirk says Vermont, and that's not correct.
I would say the highest would be Alaska.
All right, so Kirk is right. The highest unemployment rate at 7.2% is Alaska.
The last frontier.
The lowest unemployment rate at 2% is the state of Hawaii.
Because it's 80 degrees every day.
So I think
should have got that.
So I think
that was gettable, Kirk.
That's your final job.
Darn.
So-
Yes. Weatherman in Hawaii.
So anyway, that's
Nail it in.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Should've got that.
The two outliers, so to speak, have the highest and the lowest unemployment rate. But I mean, just sort of, I think this is all good news. You look at the equity market yesterday. You look at the equity market today. Pre-opening we look pretty solid, and the fact is that we weathered through about a month of a fair amount of volatility and a lot of anxiousness regarding trade and the tariffs and who's going to say what to whom, and now we're at that inflection point where can the market get back and trade on fundamentals? Unfortunately, in the first quarter it did not. I mean, earnings were pretty spectacular, but the market was, I think, more induced into trying to focus on everything that was coming out of Washington and all the geopolitical risks. So hopefully we can put that to the side and we can trade on earnings, and not so much earnings, Harry, but projected earnings of where we go Q3 and Q4, because that's something that we always want to pay attention to.
Chuck, I'm going to love this part of your program because this whole issue of trade fascinates me at two levels. One, if I'm being a political strategist, I wish it wasn't happening because things are going so well that you don't need to upset the apple cart. However, in fairness, and knowing President Trump as well as I do, he's not afraid to tackle unpopular things or even ruffle feathers of allies and others, because he has been saying, and you know this too, Chuck, from the time that we met him 30-plus years ago, he has said the trade deals stink. They've always been disadvantageous to America, NAFTA, all of them, all these different deals. So certainly short term, it hurts, and it's hurt our markets a bit, I think it's fair to say. But long term, if we actually improve these trade deals, so what do they say? Short-term pain, long-term gain. The trade thing right now almost confounds me because I wish it wasn't happening, but at the same time, I'm glad he's courageous enough to get nicked up a bit because it's very unpopular what he's doing, but he's doing the right thing, I think.
Well, look, if you look at what he's trying to accomplish, and it's is he back on the bully pulpit and trying to push around these other countries, particularly China, but the threat of protectionism, as we know it, has increased notably over the last several weeks. And, that said, that the markets have held up reasonably well.
I agree. But why should we have a $500 or $600 billion trade imbalance?
We shouldn't. So,
but just to not do this, you'd have to let that continue.
Well, look, you get this back and forth pretty much on a day-to-day basis with respect to tariffs, and the tensions out there are going to increase. Now, the question is that going to translate into a slowdown in global growth? I mean, that's what this is all about. And if you look at protectionism, it probably represents a real threat, to the global economy, because these trade barriers actually act as a tax to the consumer. You think about it. You produce a good, it costs you should sell it for $100, and the company makes $30, for instance. But now you're selling it for $200, and you're taking all those, those buyers out of the market. They're saying, "Well, I'm not paying $200 for a $100 item." So,
and everywhere we do this, though, Canada struck right back, China struck right back. So that's what's going to continue to happen.
So the question is this more rhetoric, or is it actually is this the action plan to put all these tariffs in to reduce?
Well, I think everyone's different. Where we're the big dog and it's just we're going up against a runt, they ultimately are going to, I think, just succumb. Even though Trudeau just wants to prove he's not small, so he does his strike back. But China, for example, I think the president has great opportunity there because they're not doing all that well right now. They wouldn't want necessarily a trade war. Maybe we get them to come to the table and we improve things.
But when you look at it, nobody wins in a trade war. Then the other side of the coin, the
well, what if we got to the point where it's not a $500 or $600 billion trade imbalance with China? Then I would say we won.
But I think the question is this more bark than bite? And is the president looking to create, quote, a victory before we get to the midterm election? So, you look at it from a business perspective, a lot of businesses really, haven't reacted to this, and with the thought process, this is, more rhetoric.
I expected markets to get more rattled by it, and especially on that evening late overnight when China hit us with all that stuff.
And what happened? The market went up the next day.
I know.
So you think that it's a matter of if this in fact happens full-fledged, across the world, then that's going to create a big problem. Mm-hmm. We don't think that's the case here. We think that, this is more bark than bite. And again, it grabs a lot of headlines. You just think about it. It just sucks up all the news. And the fact that the businesses, generally speaking, have not done anything to react or overreact, I think that's a really good sign.
Halftime break. We're going to be right back 31 minutes past the hour. More with Chuck Malamut right after the break. Chuck Malamut, the official exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. The Malamut Group is at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Chuck is the managing director. He leads his team. They're at 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is South Jersey's home for over 24 of the most listened to talk shows in our area. And up until recently, to participate, you had to listen for 24 different phone numbers.
407-1450.
800-941-SEAN.
But not anymore. Download the WPG Talk Radio app and tap on Call Us to automatically call the talk show that you're listening to. Get the new WPG Talk Radio app at WPGTalkRadio.com.
Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
When it comes to the success of your small business, you make every dollar count. So what could you do with $10? It may not sound like a lot of money, but it's enough to turn 500 strangers into 500 connections. All it takes is the right business card. Go to Vistaprint.com today and you'll get 500 high-quality custom business cards for only $9.99. You heard right. 500 business cards for $9.99. That's less than 2 cents per card. But don't let the price fool you. Vistaprint uses only carefully selected inks and paper stocks, so your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed every time for any reason. You'll find dozens of designs that are just right for your business at Vistaprint, and you can add your logo and contact information with just a few clicks. It's never been easier to turn strangers into connections. Just visit Vistaprint and start today because this offer won't last forever. Get your 500 business cards for just $9.99 at Vistaprint.com. Use promo code 8787 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 8787.
Hi, this is Ivan Lendl and it's Hurley in the Morning.
That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Hi, I'm Andy Roddick, and you're listening to Hurley in the Morning. No, thank you. I think we're all real excited about it. I know it's my first time here, and I'm gonna enjoy it for sure. That tonight's gonna be a good night. You know, anytime you can come spend time with a bunch of guys who have all been number one in the world, it's there's nothing bad to be picked up from that. I promise you. Hi, I'm Andy Roddick, and you're listening to Hurley in the Morning. We'll have some fun, and thank you. That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Hurley in the Morning with Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. In terms of the market, Chuck, can you make the case for optimism?
Well, yeah, Harry, we think so. I mean, there's a few key points with respect to the market as we know it today. So we've had obviously, accelerating economic growth here in the U.S. We've had strong corporate earnings, obviously Q1, with the anticipation that happening in Q2. We think that the headwinds are unlikely to morph into a bear market, but anything is obviously possible. The fact, as I mentioned to you before, are we in the closing innings of this bull market? Are we like in the top of the eighth of a 9-inning game, or is this a game that's going to go, to 12 innings? We think stocks are going to continue to make new highs in the next 6 to 12 months. And there's really two reasons we think that's going to happen. Typically equity bull markets rarely end until the economy is heading for a recession. And as we mentioned just a few minutes ago, we don't think that's the case. While globally speaking, there are some areas that are slowing. The index of leading economic indicators is gaining strength here in the U.S., but it appears to be slowing in parts of the rest of the developed world. So there is some concern about that. We see few signs here of a recession here in the U.S. occurring over the next year. We think global and U.S. economies remain in that expansion mode. So so that's one case, to keep the equity bull market on track. And one of the other things we talked about is how long does a bull market last? 3.5 years. How long does a bear market last? Less usually than a bull market. But think about this bull market that we've had. I mean, we came out in 2009. I think it was March the 6th, I believe was the actual date. And so the expansion that we have right now ongoing in the equity bull market, it's been a long time.
Is there a reason that it's been longer than usual insofar as it was a very weak bull market? I mean, I'm not being a downer, but it was tiny growth. I think it was more propped up by quantitative easing than natural organic recovery that usually from a significant downturn in the entire history of our country, and this has been every time except this time, it's always followed by robust growth. We didn't have that. Is the reason this has been able to extend and really have a very powerful few years is because the previous 6 or 7 before it were pretty weak?
Well, you think about it. When we got to 2009, we were in the really, really dark days, and to climb out of that hole, so to speak, took a considerable amount of time. And as a result of that, I think the first several years, and I think you mentioned QE 1, 2, whatever it may be, creating that false sense and to help the country move in the right direction. I think now, so there were several years of that, and now ultimately, Harry, we're at the point in time where the market is driven, exclusively on, not exclusively, but should be driven by fundamentals and earnings. So, as I mentioned, this has been going on since 2009. So we're we're in our 8-9 years.
Yeah, approaching a decade.
But that fact, by itself, doesn't tell us anything that that it's going to end.
Wouldn't there be? I mean, I always look at things. The thing I love about the show that we do, you look at things in your lane, dispassionately, not politically at all, and with a lot of history and knowledge base that you bring. I look at things such as, when's the next election? Who's running? Who has the power to make things a certain way? And I've been pretty good at picking how things are going to go based on who is running and how much power they have to affect things. I mean, let's put it this way. Wouldn't there be every interest for the 2 years that follow the midterm election for the president of the United States, who doesn't want to be a one-termer, because no president ever wants to be a one-termer, because then you're a loser. It's a shame, but that's the way it's looked at. You don't get the second term, you're kind of a loser. And we know President Trump well, and he's a winner, and he doesn't want to be perceived as a loser. So isn't it really in their interests to make sure that 2019, 2018 before that are really good years?
Well, absolutely. And I think, if you look at typically what turns a bull market, into a bear market, and that's, again, a lot of that is around a recession, which we don't anticipate happening. But there's some things and trends that we have to keep an eye on. And I mean, you just mentioned, geopolitical risk. I mean, a possible trade war, rising inflation, a spike in bond yields, monetary or fiscal policy mistakes that, and again, you think about, Harry, geopolitical shock, monetary or fiscal policy mistakes. So that's driven out of what's happening in Washington.
Let me throw a geopolitical thing in there, a domestic one, not a geopolitical thing that could happen with war or any kind of, external crazy. Democrats, if they take control, it's reasonable. I think it's 50-50 right now. And if you look at history, only 2 times since World War II would this not happen. It would be likely that Democrats could win the House of Representatives. Talk about geopolitical. What's one of the first things they're going to start to ramp up?
Yeah, well,
not
hard to figure out.
And the only reason I bring it up during your program, Chuck, I bring it up all the time during other segments of Hurley in the Morning, but during Malamut Financial, I bring it up because then you would have a president with articles of impeachment being discussed and or filed, and that's never a good thing.
So you think about everything we just mentioned. Those, all those conditions, have in fact appeared over the last year to a certain extent, but none have reached the disruptive point in the market. So I think that there's, obviously we have to be concerned about the geopolitical risk. We have to be concerned about inflation. We have to be concerned about a spike in bond yields. Remember, as I mentioned to you, earlier this hour, the world was going to end because the 10-year went through 3%. Well, okay, so it went to, maybe it was 305, 307. I don't remember exactly, but it subsequently has moved back down, and it's now in the it's like 280 something. So, I think that's that's another item we have to be concerned about. But Harry, I can't tell you how excited I am to be at this time of the year.
To be in the studio with me?
Well,
your little brother? Your protege?
Absolutely, but
go ahead. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
But now you got me completely off track. Where I was going with this is the fact that what we do all day long. We obviously need to know what's happening, and it just becomes very frustrating when you think the market should be going in one direction and it's not. And we are just so looking forward to Q2 earnings. And if today was, the start and one company doesn't make a market, but I think, Harry, in the next couple of days, we're going to have a pretty good idea what we think will be happening, for the second quarter, going into the end of the year, going into the 2018 midterm elections.
60 seconds, closing comment. We're going to be placing a call to Atlantic City Council President Marty Small to get a comment from him about his colleague who was stopped by the Atlantic City Police Department yesterday and he does not have a valid driver's license, does not have a valid registration. We're going to get into all that coming up after Chuck's program. Closing comment. So,
Harry, I think more of the same. Summer's here. It's obviously a great time to be down here at the shore. It seems like businesses are very, very busy, and we think that we're going to have a really good Q2 earnings, and as a result of that, I think it's a matter of, again, making certain that your portfolio is fine-tuned. to make certain you can take advantage of those movements, either, right, wrong, or indifferent.
You've been listening to Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters. It's a weekly program here with Hurley in the Morning. Chuck Malamut has been here since day one on Tuesdays in the 8 o'clock hour. So we're in our 27th year together. He's been doing what he's been doing several years longer than that. Chuck is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. And you can reach Chuck and his team for all of your financial planning needs by calling 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. Always awesome, Chuck. Look forward to next week.
Harry, thanks for having me. See you soon.
You got it, my friend. When we come back, Atlantic City Council President Marty Small in a Hurley in the Morning exclusive.
Health update brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff, New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
July is National Anti-Boredom Month. Of course, we can keep busy by playing on our phones or watching TV, but let's break out of our device dependence and try something new. Find a place to volunteer, visit a farmer's market, check out a local calendar for festivals and events, pick up a new skill for your career, teach yourself to knit or paint, or start a garden. Got bored kids? Try a camp out in the backyard or build a fort. Find crafts and activities for the whole family like scrapbooking, sewing, or woodworking. And you can combat boredom and get fit too. Take a walk around the neighborhood or go for a swim. Take a bike ride on the boardwalk. Try a new workout like kickboxing, yoga, or dance class. Or get adventurous with indoor rock climbing or a cool hiking trail. Plenty of ways to beat boredom this summer. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff, StoloffInjuryLaw.com. Attention you expect, results you deserve.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department selection and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
Has your current sales job got you caught in a rut? Are you not making the money you know you're worth? It's time to tune in to a new career. WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is adding full-time advertising executives to sell our full range of products. We're more than a radio company. We're the online advertising experts in South Jersey. Don't miss out on one of the fastest growing careers. Call Mike Rubel, Market President, at 609-645-9797 to schedule your interview. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
I've got the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning, starring your old pal Hurley in the Morning. And this is his old pal, Frank Sinatra Jr. You're right here on AM.
What a world, what a life, I'm in love.
Hurley in the Morning. 48 minutes past the hour. First thing I want to do is thank Atlantic City Council President Marty Small for agreeing to take my call. This was not a scheduled appearance. I say that because it's never comfortable. He's the leader of the legislative branch, but it's never comfortable. He knows why I'm calling, and it's to get a comment about a colleague, and it's never easy. Let me share with everyone what I broke last night, a Hurley in the Morning exclusive. The Atlantic City Police performed a traffic stop yesterday. I believe it was around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but that's one of the only things I'm a little sketchy about. But it was yesterday. That I know. Regarding Atlantic City Councilman Jeffrey Fauntleroy II. Upon stopping Fauntleroy, the Atlantic City Police confirmed that both his driver's license privilege and his registration are both currently suspended. Fauntleroy was ticketed. He was provided an unspecified level of professional courtesy. I'm just going to leave it at that. He was stopped for driving through a red light. Additionally, the Atlantic City Police confirmed that there are 2 outstanding warrants, and the best that I can determine, because this was in the 9 o'clock hour last night that I did all this, one in Clayton, New Jersey. The other is either Egg Harbor Township or Hamilton Township, Atlantic County, and there's, of course, Hamilton Township in the northern part of the state. I'll nail that down sometime before lunchtime today when I get a chance to call over. I'm just going to flip a coin and call either Egg Harbor Township or Hamilton Township. It's one or the other. And the stop yesterday took place around Florida Avenue. Also, if you go to my Facebook page, right below my hashtag Ready, Set, Steal, because we are the most ripped-off member of the media in New Jersey history, a very wonderful source provided me with a photo of Fauntleroy staring at least 2 tickets, and then the police officer right next to him. Joining us now is Atlantic City Council President Marty Small, because obviously, think about it, it's very embarrassing. You're an elected official, and you get stopped for going through a red light, and you don't have a driver's license, you don't have registration, and it's not like you left it home. It's suspended. And then, of course, there's 2 other outstanding warrants on top of everything else. Enter the scene, Atlantic City Council President Marty Small. Council President, thank you for taking my call this morning.
Good morning, Harry, and good morning to your listening audience.
Is it fair to say, and I really try to be as fair as I can be, but it appears that Jeffrey Fauntleroy II is becoming quite an embarrassment on City Council?
Well, as you stated in your opening segment, that, it's very, uncomfortable to talk about a colleague, when they're going through situations. And I've kind of always been, hands off in that department. But the reality is I'm the official spokesperson for the governing body. And, you have to make comments on issues. It's an unfortunate situation. No one should be driving without a license, registration, etc. We're clearly not above the law, and I hope this is a teachable moment for him as we move forward. It's definitely not a good look, but hey, he just has to get his affairs in order.
I just thought of something, and forgive me for not being clear on this. Are council members and taxpayer-provided cars, is that a thing of the past? Are they done with? They don't exist anymore?
Done.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up is just in case anybody is thinking, was he also driving a city taxpayer car?
I knew that was coming.
Okay, with no license and no, but then again, it would have been a registered car. That's our first clue, because it was a city. If it was a city car, it would have been registered. It was not. It was a suspended registration because it was a personal vehicle of some kind. What do you think this means in terms of him remaining on city council? I'm not necessarily saying that this is literally a disqualifying offense, but he is sort of like accumulating quite a status here with his conduct. What do you think? Is he to the point where he should not be on city council? What do you say?
Well, clearly, this is America, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty. However, I'm not the attorney. I haven't talked to Robert Tarver as of yet. I know Mr. Tarver is aware of it. He texted me late last night, and I have this call. I'm gonna have a call into him for a few minutes, so I don't know where it goes. I know on the law side, if you're caught driving with a suspended license, several times, I believe there's some minimal jail time, but I can't comment on that. I don't know the status of.
One police officer wrote on my post last night, 10 days or something. I'm with you. I love and approve and support and would defend the comment that you made of the presumption of innocence, but I don't think the Atlantic City Police Department did a faulty lookup and that it's going to turn out that his license really isn't suspended. I don't think they were reckless and just writing a dirty ticket that his registration is suspended. So I think both of them are going to check out. And also we know there are 2 outstanding warrants on top of that. So it's at least 4 things. And I don't even know what else was he ticketed. We'll find out. Was he ticketed for going through the red light and whatever that will be? So I'm a big fan of what you said about, and I think it's very fair on your part, Council President Small, about the presumption of innocence. But there's sort of a pile of stuff that I think takes him into a different category than just some first allegation and always give somebody the benefit of the doubt because it might not be true. And I appreciate that. But do you appreciate what I just said?
Oh, no, wholeheartedly, Harry. I agree with what you just said. And by no means is that a stab or a shot at the fine men and women in blue of our Atlantic City Police Department, who I support wholeheartedly.
And I want to second that. I didn't say that as though you were implying that, but I'm glad you just said that to clear that up in case anybody misconstrued it. I merely said it because I can't give them the presumption at this point because I'm trusting. I have a picture. I know who that police officer is. I could say his name. I'm not going to. And I know that person did their job, and it's very tough on them to think about when law enforcement has to stop one of their leaders in their community, and then the person has 2 warrants. And I mean, I don't know how it all went down, Marty, but they could have impounded the car. They could have sent him walking. They could have locked him up. I mean, it sounds to me that they were very highly professional. They couldn't let him go completely, but it also looks like they were kind and didn't look to stick it to him either. I think it was really good judgment that was exercised in terms of who they were stopping and any other implications, and I'll let listeners decide what I mean by that. But I think they did a really good job on this stop.
Yeah, well, back to what you were saying about the presumption of innocence. I'm merely saying, yes, I heard as well tickets were distributed, various tickets. And, Harry, as you know, that process is going to play out before a judge, not in Atlantic City because of a conflict. It might actually play out in your hometown, Egg Harbor Township. So, once that happens, we'll all know the full details. I haven't seen any reports. So I'm looking forward to gathering all the information as, all the city attorneys are, required to do. And, I'll read over it and, get the story of, the full story of what happened.
So what's your gut instinct tell you that if these other 2 warrants turn out that he's convicted of 2 other things that we don't even know what they are right now, they might even be that he got stopped there for driving with no license and suspended registration. We don't know what they are, but I'm going to find out today. And then if these, I can't imagine that he can mitigate these things. They are what they are, and I think it even could have been more. What do you think at the end of the day? If he winds up getting convicted of like multiple things like this, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely not a good look. It's not a good look for Councilman Fauntleroy, and it's not a good look, for the governing body or the city of Atlantic City at whole, without knowing what those other 2 warrants are and the magnitude of it. Was it another, like you said, driving without a license? And as I said, that process will play out crystal clear in the court because the law is the law.
Well, let me do this because we're down to 2 minutes, and I have somebody in the next hour, or I would even ask you to stay if your schedule would permit. If it rises to the level that he is convicted of multiple different things here, could you see City Council censuring him in some kind of vote that you would take as a full body, asking for him to resign? How could you? To what degree could you see this playing out?
That's why I said, and Harry, as you said, you'll have the information later today. I assume that you have sources in the Clayton Police Department, and I know you probably have sources in EHT or Mays Landing. I don't want to, cast aspersions. I want to get all the facts. As I stated to you, at 9:30, I will be on a call with Rob Tarver, who's our city council attorney. I'm sure I will be talking to Anthony Swan and the rest of, the people in City Hall today. Depending on what it is, if it rises to the level and, the governing body, wants to make a move, we'll decide at that time. But once I get all the facts, I won't hesitate, to make a comment.
Council President Marty Small, thank you. Thank you for taking my call. As always, thank you for your just accessibility and transparency. It's commendable, and we'll follow up as need be, and thanks again.
All right, thank you. No problem.
Thank you, sir. When we come back, Dr. Bob Zlotnick is making a house call. It is the Atlantic Prevention Resources monthly program titled Under the Influence. Dr. Bob Zlotnick has two guests this upcoming hour. We'll be back after our Fox News and our statewide Town Square Media news break with more of the Hurley in the Morning program. Fourth quarter begins now.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
This is a Fox News alert. The 12 boys and their coach trapped in that cave in Thailand have all gotten out alive. I'm Dave Anthony.
There's just a huge sense of relief here in northern Thailand when we hear about this team finally all getting to safety.
Fox's Jeff Paul outside the hospital where the 5 rescued today will join the 8 who already got out, ending a more than 2-week ordeal. President Trump just tweeted his congratulations, calling it such a beautiful